What is art? Art is often referred to as the expression or application of a creative skill of a human being, coupled with the use of their imagination and, well, of course, self-expression. And though it is a very loose term and explanation, it embodies the word perfectly. Art. However, the word artist is where the line becomes very blurred. We often see very talented individuals or groups that are very amazing at what they do, enjoyable to watch, observe, or partake in their art. But are they artists, or is that just their job? This can be a very challenging concept to aspiring artists, as a lot of what is instantly available and popular doesn't leave much room for artists. When speaking with some artists, they shared and expressed the desire and personal need to always be as original as possible. Many acknowledge that it has all been done before. The combinations and fusions of different art styles have demanded the need for new genres. Like anything else, if you take a finished product and you change it by 10%, that product you just created is now 100% your original product. You can now brand this as a brand new product without copyright or trademark infringements. And well, maybe that's what artists are. Made up of 10% of this, made up of 10% of that, 30% of this, 20% of that, etc. But even with all of that conscious and subconscious influence, the truest artists always seem to find a way to make it their own and unidentifiable. Is art something you were born with, or is art something that you acquire? Let's talk to some artists and see what their experiences are. Let's hear their stories.
My name is David Zilmer. I'm the lead singer and guitarist for Tewaito. Tewaito is a word in an ancient Ethiopian language called Ge'ez, and the word means to be unified or to become one. It's a mix of soul, blues, and rock and roll, and psychedelic music, man, you know. Source breaks with me. Is this the end? Beginning, have I been said? Pray I don't mind if you stay. You'll wash my troubles away. Just like magic, that's how it feels when our stars align.
So I'm Shelby Rossler, and I'm right now a freelance musician. So I am currently a composer in residence out in California. I've been here for a couple of weeks, and then I'm heading over to the Vail Dance Festival. So I kind of hop around a bit, doing different residencies, and I do concert commissions, and I write music for TV and commercials, advertisements, films, all of those kinds of fun things.
My name is James Barnes, and I am a visual artist that resides in Miami, Florida. My artwork can be considered as eclectic. Basically, I'm drawing on different styles and different motifs to express any particular art piece that I'm working on at the moment. Basically, the motif basically governs the particular style that I'll use at any particular time, and it's not limited to any one style or motif that I'll be using at the time that I'm doing the artwork.
My name is Analia, and I am a musician, a singer, a songwriter, a guitarist, a bassist, occasionally keys and percussion as well. To sum it all up, I'd say a performer.
Well, that didn't last long. It wasn't meant to be, but it taught me a thing or two or three. It was written in the stars, our compatibility. I should have lived but to me. I must confess, in retrospect, I saw some signs that I didn't connect. Cause
my name is Adam Mack, and I'm a creative director and a producer here in Miami, Florida.
Else could see, I thought it was real. Night after night, I tried to be a wall, trying not to fall.
My name is Kenny Ruiz. I'm an artist, I'm a fashion designer, and I do some acting. And I do collage art is what I'm known for.
Is the 10,000 hour rule really a thing? You know, Malcolm Gladwell stated it takes 10,000 hours to become a professional at something. Does this statement hold true? Or could it be for some that's still not enough hours, while maybe for others it may take much less than that?
I've been practicing art all my life. I cannot remember a time when I wasn't doing some form of artwork.
I've been doing my art for over 10 years, but I could say that I've been doing it since I could walk, speak, and talk.
Since I was about 6 or 7 years old, I started playing the drum set when I was really, really young, and that kind of grew over time into a bunch of other things.
I have been doing music and dancing and acting since I was 13, so I've now been doing this for about 23 years.
Art has been in my life my whole life. I was an artist that used to do graffiti in Chicago. I grew up doing that, and I got into a lot of other forms of art.
I've been practicing my art for as long as I can remember.
So I'm originally from South Florida, and then I lived in Boston for 4 years to do my undergrad degree at the Boston Conservatory, and then I now live in New York, just graduated from Juilliard School for my master's in composition.
Well, I'm from originally Indianola, Mississippi. At the age of 2, my mom, she basically moved back down to Miami, and I've been here ever since. Grew up in a neighborhood in Miami called Liberty City.
I am from Hollywood, Florida. Now I am in New York City. And before I was in New York, I was in Chicago for a few years as well.
I was born in Chicago. I'm Puerto Rican descent.
I'm originally from Trinidad and Tobago, and I moved here when I was young, and I was raised right here in South Florida.
Everything is art.
For me, art it's like glue. It brings together community. It brings people together. It brings me together. It's like therapy.
Oh my goodness. Art to me is absolutely everything. I think art can mean so many different things, and it's sort of, I feel like I find inspiration in art in everything, and the way that I move through life is by being inspired by others. So I try to find that sort of creative spark in pretty much anything, and that to me is art.
Art is my escape. Art is a place where I can put my ideas down. That's what art is to me.
So to me, art is life and life is art. It's the freedom to be who you want to be. It's the freedom to express yourself.
Art is an internal expression of how we relate to ourselves and the world around us, in my opinion.
I think it's the purest form of self-expression.
In general, I think art is a way for people to be able to express themselves. It's a way for people to be able to show their talent. I mean, there's so many, even designing cars, that's an art in itself when you look at everything around you.
We have heard time and time again that art is healing and that it trains particular nerves. Positively affects our nervous system and receptors in our brain. It can raise serotonin levels and even change one's mood. For some artists, it even changes the way they experience the world around them. Art therapy has gotten a lot more attention in the past decade. Could there be some truth in the healing qualities of art? Many have used art as a way to deal with depression, PTSD, anxiety, ADHD, and the list goes on. Some people choose exercise as their way to stay mentally fit. and some choose art for their mental health.
If I were not an artist, I think what I would be doing for work is probably panhandling on the side of the street. I can't see life without music, without art. So this is all I know, this is all I've ever done.
I would be a behavioral specialist, behavioral health specialist, in which I devoted the last almost 30 years of my life to doing.
Ooh, I cannot imagine not being an artist. So I guess I'd probably be a blue collar guy.
If I was not an artist, I don't know. um, maybe just traveling.
If I wasn't doing art, I would probably either be outside on the street, or I'd be a farmer, or maybe I'd be somewhere catching fish on a river or something.
If I wasn't an artist, I probably would be in the field of psychology to some extent, maybe as a therapist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist, something helping people, especially with mental health. That's like something that I'm super, super passionate about and think that artists need to talk more about. So I think I would do something along those lines.
My background as a Caribbean man has influenced a lot of flavor in my music. I like to do rhythmic beats. It brings me some culture to the productions that I work on and to my acting style.
My background had a lot to do with the fact that I'm an artist, actually. And the reason I say that is because I have had many varied experiences in my lifetime that compel me to choose art as a career.
So I try not to look into the background. I try to keep my eyes in the foreground. There's a good sentiment I like to live my life by. It's called forward ever, backward never.
The artistry behind lowriding it's a phenomenal culture. And so being a part of that culture, it influences my art a lot because it's such a strong culture. You'll see a lot of lowriders depicted in my artwork because of the history, the culture, and everything behind it. So although it's known primarily for being more of a Mexican design, lowriding is a movement that really touches every nationality, race, and everything. So it's like it's its own culture. And so you see my art gets influenced a lot with lowriding.
Accomplishments at this point is just like living. To be living in New York City and having the drive and the willpower to pursue my passion and to, make the music that I want to make, and have control over there's some control over the structure of my life and what I get to do with my time.
One of my biggest personal accomplishments basically was not a question of whether or not I sold a lot of artwork, but basically a lot of the personal pieces that I've rendered for people that really could appreciate what was being done, especially for them at the moment. Namely, when my brother passed away, I painted a portrait of him as he was living, and it drove people wild because of how realistic the painting actually showed everyone of him.
So some of my biggest accomplishments as an artist, it's interesting because I have some, career goals. Like I was nominated for an Emmy last year, so that is something that's really exciting and special. But at the same time, for me, the most rewarding moments are walking out of a concert and talking to the audience about how they felt about the music that I was sharing, and those sort of more intimate personal moments of really connecting with your audience as an artist.
Painting of my mother, basically in a state of worship and praise, was received very greatly by her and everyone else that saw it.
I can honestly say that one of the things that just stands out is I was able to do the first piece of memorabilia for a young champion race car driver before he was champion. And he went on to become the most winningest racer in Trans Am Racing Series. He was the youngest person to win it. And then he's the first Haitian American to sign with NASCAR. And I did his first piece of memorabilia. And I look back at it and think, wow, what an amazing accomplishment that was. It stands out to me. So shout out to Ernie Francis Jr.
Biggest accomplishments as a musician have been not so much material accomplishments, but more of having the affirmations and the respect of your peers and your community.
My biggest accomplishment as an artist is putting together a boy band and making it to America's Got Talent. A lot of things came out of that. We ended up getting a TV show from it. I was able to put in all the things that I had ever learned my entire life as an artist: directing, producing, dancing, singing, writing, acting, and actually find a home for all of it. So I wasn't really limited to one thing. So that's what I feel like that has to be the biggest thing that I ever accomplished. I got to do everything that I've ever mastered in one place.
An artist finds safety, peace, tranquility, answers, and a lot more in their art. There's a certain detail to their work that is not replicable. Sometimes it's just the way they make you feel, the way they move, the way they sound, or how you personally relate to their art. Art is very subjective, but an artist is a true gem. For many artists, art is a need and not a want. So will we eventually see room in the mainstream for avant-garde artists in this century? Or will systems, money, and genius marketing always determine the quality of art that we favor as a society?
Art, to many people, have many definitions. To me, art is basically that part of me that view reality in the way that I view it uniquely and how I interpret it in the medium that I choose, whether it's in pencil, pastel, oil, or acrylic.
My art takes me away from my feelings, and it replaces them with the art. So at the end of the day, whether I'm using it to cast away something or to bring something up, the two are very intertwined. You can't have art without feelings. You can't have feelings without art. So
every piece is different. When I start creating something, I usually have to think about what I've been through that week, what I've been through that day, and what's resonating with me in the moment. It's really hard for me to create art that's forced, and on a personal level, I try to create my own art from what it is my life experience is giving me now. When I'm working, that's a different story. They give you a task and you do the task because that's what's required. And that's also a skill in itself. You learn the work, you learn the formulas, and then you're able to take yourself out of your creative space and bring some of that creativity to your work environment. But then when you're not working, you empower that workability by exploring your own creative space.
When I do art, I think about the great creator, the creator of all things. And I ask myself, how would you do it? These are my thoughts. I'm giving it to you. And something mysterious and magical happens as a result.
Artist block. One of the hardest things is when you get artist block. You pour your heart onto so many pieces, and a lot of my pieces were created during some of my darkest times, and so it's easy when you're going through some emotions to pour it out in the artwork. And sometimes when you find yourself a little bit more content, a little bit more peaceful at the moment, sometimes you can get an artist block. And I think that's happened to me a few times where I'm just like stuck. And it's like, I want to be able to create something in this mood that can have the impact that sometimes the pieces that I'm a little more emotional on have.
Some of the common challenges that I face in my field and that I see other people facing in their field is them not knowing what to do, not knowing what the next step is. And in the reality of it is that most of us really don't know what the next step is. All we do know is that we work hard, we try to stay good people, and then doors keep opening up. Eventually you find somebody who meets somebody else, who knows somebody else, and they have the information that you're looking for. So that's usually been one of the biggest challenges as an artist, is figuring out and navigating the maze, and then also explaining that to other artists, that patience is the most important thing.
Continuing to pursue your passion even though there's like a tidal wave of doubt and rejection and fear that are constantly, chasing after you as you chase your dream. The biggest fear about being an artist, or the biggest conundrum about being an artist, is that only you know the correct path, that this is an unblazed road and you're the only one who can trailblaze it, and only you know what's right and what's wrong.
First of all, let me start by saying I'm a self-taught artist, and I've had no formal education in art at all. So the greatest challenge actually was getting inspired to do art. Another challenge is that when I first started out, as many novice artists would, you start to compare yourself to other artists, which something I had to overcome at an early age. I realized that what worked for them didn't necessarily work for me.
I think the hardest thing for me as an artist to break through was overcoming the mental game that I wasn't good enough, that I didn't look the part, that I was too short, or not the right color skin, or maybe I didn't sing a certain way. But there's a place for all of us. If I like what I do, there's a good chance that there are thousands of people who are going to like what I do, because similarly, we all have some similarities, and we're connected in a certain way. So I think just staying true to myself, doing what felt right to me, always got me over those hurdles.
So some of the bigger challenges for live musicianship where we live is probably the venues and the promoters. They want you to compromise what you do, or maybe water it down to fit into the audience.
The greatest challenge is you maintaining your own sense of integrity as an artist. In other words, you're not trying to copy somebody else's style of art all because it looks good to you.
The way that I've overcome several of those challenges and trying to figure out and navigate how to go is very simple, actually. I keep my head down and I work. I just keep getting better and better at my craft, and the answers usually open up through hard work and just focusing on what it is that I'm trying to do in that moment. I don't necessarily look 10 steps down. I'm looking at one step at a time for the goal that I'm trying to reach. And if I'm not good at something, I'll ask somebody who is good at something. If I'm not a professional at it, I'll definitely ask another professional. And usually that seems to work. If you're not the master of something, find someone who is and listen to them.
So I think the biggest challenge is trying to be able to let the rest of the world really appreciate how deep that art is. Because as an artist, I'll look at a piece and I'm really delving into the piece. And so sometimes people look at the piece and they're just seeing just a piece of art. It's not until they spend some time and look at it that they really start, the piece will speak to them. And so I think that's getting people to appreciate the amount of work that you did to get that piece to look the way it does. I think that's the hardest challenge for artists today.
One of my greatest lows is when I could not sell a single picture, nor could I show a single picture in any venue.
I think the lowest point of my music career, which every artist has to go through, is getting a record deal, being told you're going to get this happen and that happen, this much money, this type of tour, and it's all just sometimes a ploy. And you get put on the back burner, you see the lights and the cameras, and the action, and then it all kind of just doesn't happen that way that you thought it was going to happen. It was definitely one of the lowest points, getting a record deal, losing that record deal, but it was probably one of the best lessons of my life.
It was when the realization that I could no longer hand draw. When my mom passed away, something turned off and I could no longer get the images that I was imagining. It was like it was gone. And so I had to completely change my medium of art. And that's why I started doing collage art. And so at first I hid my art. I didn't even want to show anybody because I was like, man, you know, I'm putting pieces together from something else, you know, and so I was struggling with that. It was a really difficult thing to overcome. It wasn't until somebody came to me and said, man, I've been all over the world and I've seen collage art and I've never seen it done this way. You have something special. And it gave me that confidence to go out there and show my art.
And basically the idea of being typecast in a very negative way in terms of my artistic influences. Those were the downers that I can think of at this moment. There are more, actually, but there are those. I kind of want to touch on those because I'm certain that a lot of artists, like myself, have experienced those emotional highs and lows.
My advice for aspiring artists would be get yourself a group of like-minded individuals, and even before you find yourself working with a team or a group of like-minded individuals, make sure that you've cut out a vision of what you want to be, what do you want to do, before other people come in and influence you.
Trust your creativity. There's so many times where I see artists show a piece and say, do you like this? Is this good? To somebody, and even if it's somebody close to them. And the answer is yes, it is good. It's your art. It's your piece.
So advice for aspiring artists, I would say, trust yourself. I think that so much of being an artist is about believing that you can do what you want to do. And I think that trusting that you've put in the time and all of the energy and all of the effort into whatever it is that your art is, I think you need to trust yourself that you have put in that time and you have, you have the dedication to be able to do what you want to do.
The number one advice I have for aspiring artists is number one, be interested in art. Become very interested in art. And what I mean about that is that look at art in a way that facilitate your personal growth and development as a human being, first and foremost, not an artist. And if you choose art as a career, which is number two, practice, practice, and practice. And don't be afraid of making mistakes.
I think what I would tell aspiring artists these days is that you cannot give up. You have to actually just keep searching for the answers. The only way that you're going to get farther and faster is just to be resilient and keep going. You're not always going to have a clear path, but that's okay. As long as you keep doing it, the path opens up for you.
You know, you got to keep pushing no matter what you're doing. Keep pushing. Don't give up. Even when times get rough, you're going to go through it. You have to go through it because you can't have the testimony without the test. Go through it. Accept what you're going through. Deal with it as it comes. Pray about it. Stay strong in your faith, and don't worry, everything will be all right.
The advice that I'll give to professional artists would be to brand yourself accordingly ASAP and figure out who is your demographic, who is your market, and again, what are your target goals? What are you trying to? So again, spinning back to that, don't quit, keep pursuing your craft, don't compromise your prices or your show or whatever, don't lowball yourself just to fit into the competition.
Is to share, share, and share. Share your work. Share the knowledge of how you rendered your work, what material that you use, what techniques do any artist need to know to make a successful painting, to do a professional piece of artwork?
I would say the same exact thing to professionals. Just keep on that desire to want to move forward, and there's no end in sight if that's the case.
Reach out to the younger artists, get more involved with the art community where you started. Don't forget where you came from. I see a lot of artists still come back and everything, but there's a lot of doors that were open that you can open for some artists, and so, you know, if you can, do it. Open the doors for them. Show them the way.
My advice for professional artists is that you have to keep it going. Stay in it. I can't tell you how many times that I have met up with a producer or an executive that I've known for years, and then they were just like, hey, whatever happened to that other person, and they're nowhere to be found. So the chances are, if you're really good at what you do and you keep doing it, people will come looking for you. So just don't stop.
It's, again, cutting that clear vision of who it is that you want to be, what it is that you're presenting to the public, and at the end of the day, remaining true to yourself and true to that brand.
When I was a kid, I picked up a book. The book was called Images of Dignity, and it was done by an African-American artist, famous artist. His name is Charles White. And Charles White basically showed me a whole different world in terms of how he rendered charcoal paintings.
Musically, Jimi Hendrix, Bob Marley, Tupac, Fela Kuti, a lot of different artists, you know, countless artists that I could name, Sam Cooke, the whole Motown, Otis Redding, all of that. But unironically and ironically, my biggest inspiration is me.
Some of my biggest inspirations as a musician, I would say Stevie Wonder, Shaka Khan, Minnie Riperton, Erykah Badu, Jill Scott, Leanne La Havas, India Ari.
As far as artist, I followed the path of an artist that's very well known, which is Guy Harvey. I liked the way he was able to build himself up. I liked the way he spread his artwork around the world, and he stuck to his style.
So like everybody else, probably same story. One of the biggest inspirations in my life was Michael Jackson. You saw him perform and light up a stage, and you just wanted to do what he did. As I grew up, the sparkle of what show business is and what I thought it was, it starts to disappear a little bit. You get a little bit more realistic, and you become an artist yourself. And you start to relate to other things. You start to get to the truth of what music is to you. I think after that, my biggest inspiration was Craig David. I thought it was amazing how he took R&B vocals and put them on pop music, and he delivered them with like a rap cadence. I think to this day he's influenced probably some of the best rapper singers, Neo, Drake, Chris Brown, Justin Bieber. One of my biggest inspirations as well.
And my most important influence was my cousin Wilson, who incidentally was not an artist. But he drew a truck. I mean, he drew a stick-figured truck with two little circles and a cab with with a little circle indicating the front wheel. And he said, James, I want you to do this. And at first I thought I couldn't. But I followed the instructions and put the little circles here, a little circle there, a little circle there, did an oblong-shaped cab, and he gave me praise. He says, one day you're going to be an artist.
My number one supporter is my friends and family. They never give up on me. They keep pushing me. Every time I think that it's time to call it quits, I'm just reminded that this is my home. This is what I'm good at. There's nothing for me to worry about, and it keeps me going.
My biggest supporter, that would be, my parents are my biggest supporters.
My number one supporter, oh man, all praise is due to the Most High. That's my number one supporter, you know? Because, again, he gave me the breath to wake up. He gave me the breath to be able to sing and speak and influence people. He's given me these gifts. I've just made sure that I hold up my end of the bargain and that I hone them and that I live every day to the best of my ability.
I have used art as a way to escape from severe depression. And I do say that in a very, very bold way, unapologetically. I've used art as a way of escaping anxiety. I've used art as a means of escaping from poverty.
I've used art as an escape throughout my whole life. Growing up in gang-infested Chicago, my neighborhood was really, really filled with gangs, and you comes to a point where there's no saying no, and you end up in one, and you end up in these situations that you don't want to be in, and I've been in those situations. And so when I found graffiti art, when I started doing graffiti, man, let me tell you, it was my time away. I would hide from the street life and go and do graffiti and do art, and I loved it. And yeah, it was wrong, but I loved it. And during the hardest times of my life are some of my best pieces came out of. When my mother passed away, I used art to escape the pain of that and of losing her. And so I've used art throughout my whole life to escape from whatever issues I was going through, and it's worked every time.
I definitely have used art as an escape. I think it is sort of my coping mechanism of life. Life can get super, super stressful. We have our ups and downs. That's just part of being humans. So I definitely, have those moments where I'm feeling really down and will just kind of sit at the piano and let myself just kind of float away into whatever it is.
100% saved my life. Art wasn't an escape. Art became a permanent residence. And escaping what would be to escape the neighborhood, to escape your living situation.
Namely, I've served in the military. I grew up in a very difficult part of town. I've had some very challenging childhood experiences, and basically they allowed for me to be convinced that art was definitely the way of life that I would choose, as opposed to many other careers I've had.
I use art as an escape every day of my life, but it's a great escape. I use it to escape into my meditation. I use it to escape into feeling free. I've never used art to escape from anything that I feel is destructive. I usually try to use art to tackle those things head on, the stresses and the anxiety, but it is my safe haven. It's where I go when I need to express myself. I just do it through movement, through song.
But it's therapeutic because it helps you deal with your issues.
And it's not so much as the art, it's the act of doing something positive. Art being the medium in which my expressions took its fulfillment. But art is one of those things that you run to when you have absolutely no control over anything else.
It's not all about the work. It's not all about the fame. It's not all about the success. I think that's the biggest thing that people make a mistake about, is that they make this their life and they forget about every other aspect of life.
Music has definitely increased my mental fortitude, right? It gives me pride in myself to be able to do the things that I do. But also, I feel like doing the music aligned me in a path and aligned me with the correct people.
With art, the artists have total control. He can splash colors on the canvas in a bit of rage, or he can choose solemn colors to basically come down from a period of deep remorse or depression.
Today, I wanted to get better at this. So like I said about being in the street, I was only in the street if I had a purpose. My purpose was music.
I think the first thing that I think about too is the finished work. And I think that's what a lot of artists basically start from. We start from the finish. We really do. Because a lot of us that have insight know the direction that we're going. We've already envisioned the finished product already. Basically, our work as an artist is filling in the gaps.
When I say it sometimes, it sounds crazy, but what I used to look at a blank sheet of paper, I saw the image. I was tracing the image that I saw in my mind.
So I guess I have what I would like to think about versus what I actually do. I would like to be more just sort of in the moment of whatever I'm creating right now is what it is in this moment. And I don't want to think about, how the audience is going to react and how people will perceive whatever it is I'm creating, and be more just in the moment of I'm really enjoying the process of creating this. And this is what I do. The other stuff isn't what my actual job is. This is my job, and I should love and appreciate it the same way that I do stepping off a concert stage.
What's interesting about the way that I do my art is that I do it my own way, especially when people are telling me that I have to do it this way, or this is cool, this is the trend. I'll follow those trends when it comes time for it. But in the meantime, I try to stay as true to myself as possible. I maintain my sanity by not following trends. I maintain my reliability by doing what I feel is right first. And then I'll branch off from there once I've created that structure and that foundation of now I can move freely, then I move.
I'm in the present moment. I'm just trying to figure out how to breathe and how to play at the same time.
So an artist can control his own destiny in terms of issues that needs to be mitigated without resorting to violence or self-destructive behavior for the most part. Because art is an area where the artist does and have complete control.
When I'm doing a piece, I'm lost in whatever that piece is about. I'm lost in that moment. That's all that's on my mind is what's that piece gonna look like.
I'm not setting a goal in art. What I'm doing is I'm sitting in the present moment and I'm allowing this buzzing sensation like that's in my mind that's kind of messing up my daily life to come out. You know what I mean? And just giving it that space to be able to come out and to be able to be creative.
I know that there were times when I could have involved myself in self-destructive behavior, drinking, overindulgence in any particular sorts of areas. That picking up that pencil one night and just doing any kind of scribbles that made sense or didn't even have to make sense, but the fact that I was engaged in some type of artistic expression gave me just enough time to think about what I was about to do.
I came from the street doing music, freestyling and setting up the guitar and the amp and the microphone in Wynwood and just playing in the street and dealing with street people. But the thing is that what separated me from the street people is I was there for a purpose, and the purpose was that of music.
My wife has been amazing. And let me tell you, you have to have somebody good at your side. You have to have somebody great at your side. Somebody great, somebody that really understands you, somebody that really is driven for what your vision is and is willing to see your vision. But in the same token, you have to be able to push that person to their greatness.
I'm a self-taught artist. I don't come from any formal discipline in terms of my approach to art. So most of my artwork comes directly from the heart. The way I see art, the way I render art, is more of a heartfelt thing than an accumulation of artistic knowledge and techniques. Although over the years I've accumulated all of those things, it doesn't serve the purpose in terms of me reaching the core of who I am. Anyone can use techniques to do anything. But when I do artwork, I basically try to come directly from here and try to put it on canvas so that everyone can feel what I'm feeling here. For example, in this piece, it's called Songs of David. It's a very serene piece, basically, where anyone could probably kind of come to the conclusion that this is a very shy and introverted kid. Okay? He has no interest in grandstanding for the most part. He's off to himself. and he's playing a guitar. However, he's playing his own music, coming from a pure source within him. He's not a bit intimidated what other people think. He's very fearless in his approach to his guitar playing. And he feels, it indicates that he's at peace with himself. He's not a bit intimidated by the world around him. His only concern is satisfying his musical joy.
So like I said about being in the street, I was only in the street if I had a purpose. My purpose was music. So what the people that I found myself with before, just because we lived in the same neighborhood, just because we went to the same school, right? It's like you find that the majority of people in your life are just there out of convenience. They're just there because they're, you know, you see them every day. You see them 5 hours a day in high school. You see them in the neighborhood when you come home. And so what you start to see is that if you don't have a similar passion or a similar mindset, then at the end of the day, that person just kind of gets scratched out, or they kind of get eliminated out of your life. So yeah, music 100% influenced and saved my life.
The one thing about art is that you develop a unique focus, not just on the subject matter that you're painting, but on issues that affects you and everyone else around you, for the most part.
Being a musician, like I'm from the Caribbean, man. Being a musician, like your parents look at you crazy because they came here to see you as a doctor, to see you as a lawyer. They want what's best for you. So when you say, I'm just gonna pick up a guitar and sing, and there's no guarantee of anything, it blows their mind. It makes them very fearful about who you are going to become. But it also, it empowers them, and it gives them strength because they know that you're complete. You're going to be who you want to be regardless if they're there or not. And you need to have that.
Take me to your river. I want to go. Whoa, whoa. Take me to your river.
I want people to know that I'm still growing. You know, you put things out on the internet and it feels very permanent and it feels very concrete, but things are always changing and evolving. So just, you know, I'd love to be accepted for where I'm at, but I'm always on the move.
What I want people to know the most about me is that I am a friend. I am always going to be here. I'm always there when people need me, and I'm always there to make sure that I can help provide the next answer in your journey by helping people accomplish their dreams. I accomplish my own dreams. It's the only way things have worked for me my entire life. My success is attributed to helping other people. By helping other people, it put me steps and leaps farther than other people that I've ever seen in this industry try to work on their own or do it for themselves selfishly. Honestly, I think I've made so many people's dreams come true that it's opened up all the doors for my dreams to come true, because they're still coming true right now, and I don't have any inhibitions about stopping and, you know, not being there for other people.
The blame is on me, 'cause I knew you were trouble when you walked in. So shame on me now. Flew me to places I'd never been, till you put me down. Oh, I knew you were trouble when
wanted to just kind of figure out something to bring us all back together, and ended up producing a virtual orchestra music video of the gorgeous Burt Bacharach song, What the World Needs Now Is Love. And everyone just sent in individual videos of themselves playing along to the arrangement that I had written of this song. And I mashed it all together with the help of my friend Dan Santiago, who was the mix engineer. And we produced this music video, and it kind of went crazy viral all of a sudden, and ended up all over the internet and the TV, and it was quite an explosion of love is the way that I like to think about it, because the whole point and message of the song is about how important it is to spread love with those around you. And that is exactly what we needed at the time. And I think that's what we always need. So it was a really special moment for us all.
Our world needs now is love, sweet love.
It's the only thing that there's just too little love.
What the world needs now is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone.
I want them to know that I'm somebody who changed himself, and I'm somebody who made it. Making it is relative to your situation, but at the end of the day, I've made leaps and bounds, a whole bunch of strides for, again, the situations that I've been given and what I turned it into.
That whatever talents I have and all that I am was created by him.
You need to figure out who it is you're closely related to. Everybody thinks they're unique. Everybody thinks they're different, that they're one in a million, but the chances are it's been done before. Now, I'm not saying you're not creative or unique or different, but what I'm saying is that we all pull from people to make us who we are. We have our favorite types of music, our favorite styles, our favorite genres, and we have to be able to see who we relate to. Being able to create your own path, you have to know kind of where it is you're coming from, and then you can probably become unique. You can become the unique Kanye West or Lady Gaga, or go off the beaten and broken path. But in the beginning, it's really important to just know where you're coming from.
So if you're not finding the inspiration in yourself, or if you're not finding that inspiration in your life, you know, then you're not going to be able to create. You're not going to have the fundamental processes.
And that's what I try to do with each and every painting, is to show some form of human qualities in each one of those pictures that I paint, whether it be a smile or a look of disdainment, or just an average, ordinary human look. And I try to do that with nature, with landscape portraits, to show that there's a living, breathing world that we live in that needs to be kept and maintained.
I'm a family man. I believe strongly in family. I believe in sticking by your family and going through it all. And I just believe in general being honest and being true. You build relationships, be honest in those relationships, be true to them, and you'll see that life will be a lot better for you if you are the good person in everybody's life.
One cannot exist without the other. Does life imitate art, or does art imitate life?
Many things can hurt an art community. One of the biggest is that there isn't any laws or unions in South Florida to protect artists. This is a major problem because many people come to South Florida to buy art, see art, create art, or simply create an entire production, because while the permits may cost a decent amount of money, the money will be saved in artist wages. South Florida artists who only work in South Florida get about 75% less than what you would get for the same work in New York, Los Angeles, and or Chicago. Interestingly though, Miami has incentives for production companies that hire local talent. However, they do not have a pay rate or pay scale that is standard for local talent. An artist gets lost in a world that only they exist in. When they create, which is all the time, they go to another place. A place where imagination can run wild. A place where there aren't any wrongs. A place where they can express themselves without interruption. An artist is also very aware that not everyone will approve of their creation, but they need to get it out and deal with the consequences later. While many so-called artists are only doing things for reaction, an artist will create their own art as their reaction to life as they see it, the way they experience it, or the way they observe it. Their private world is a blank canvas, an empty stage, a blank piece of paper, or even recycled scrap materials. At this point, so many things are possible, but only one experience can be lived at a time. The story unfolds, the artist creates in the theater of the mind.